So welcome to the Great Regional Debate. This debate was born from the work of AWA New South Wales team in developing and growing AWA's regional engagement. A hack was delivered by the group whereby the group challenged our regional colleagues on the most pressing issues that need to be addressed. The result was innovation, but not as a standalone subject, but underpinned by three sub-themes: resilience, innovation, and developing and addressing the regional skills shortage. The debate today is the next step in the hack. Today we will hear from 6 water professionals on innovation and its place in the regional water industry, including an appetite for risk, the priority it should have, and whether we should celebrate it or not. You, our delegates, will decide on the best arguments and what the New South Wales regional water champions should focus on going forward. You will have an opportunity to ask questions to each of the speaker through the Q&A platform called Slido. Before we begin today's debate and discussion, I want to share a piece of early water innovation. As we talk about learning from past failures and successes, looking to the future and exploring what we need to do now and how to do it, I wanted to share this photo of the Brewarrina fish traps. The Brewarrina fish traps are a complex network of river stones arranged to form ponds and channels to catch fish as they travel downstream. It is known as one of the oldest human-made structures in the world. The traps are located on the Barwon River on the outskirts of Brewarrina. The fish traps reflect an ancient genius in the simplicity of their design, which was adaptable to the seasons and changing water levels. The fish traps work by using stone walls to guide the fish that are swimming upstream into holding ponds, where the Aboriginal people traditionally caught them with their bare hands or spears, or blocked them into the ponds to be caught later. According to Aboriginal tradition, the ancestral being, Bami, created and designed the fish traps by throwing his net over the river, and with his 2 sons built the fish traps into their shape. But other oral histories suggest that the fish traps were inspired by nature, by the pelican, and that the traps acted like the pelican's beak in scooping fish out of the water. The creation of the fish traps and the Aboriginal law governing their use helped shape the spiritual, political, social, ceremonial, and trade relationships between Aboriginal groups from and across the greater landscape. The fish traps were an important site for food production, work, trade, and consumption. Early witnesses in the 1800s who saw the system in operation remarked on the efficiency of the traps and the number of fish harvested. They also remarked that the clans took maintenance of breeding stock, with the design allowing breeding fish to pass upstream to ensure their population numbers, as well as allowing others to have their share. The engineering of this structure was ingenious. The system made of locking the boulders in place and strong enough to withstand regular floods. The traps are recognised as showcasing a thorough understanding of dry wall stone construction techniques, river hydrology, and fish ecology. However, in the 1920s, townsfolk at Brewarrina loaded carts with stones from the fish traps to use them as foundations for their buildings in the town. A weir was completed in the 1970s, and this damaged some of the traps and altered the sediment flows and the ecology of the river. Native fish could not pass through the weir's steep fishway, and what occurred was a destruction of significant Aboriginal cultural heritage, the loss of traditional management, and the maintenance of the river and its fish. However, in 2005, the fish traps were added to Australia's National Heritage listing, and today, both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people in the region work hard to maintain and care for the fish traps. So this is a beautiful example of early innovation, but should it be told as a story of success or a story of failure? What does the future of the fish traps hold? It's impossible to tell, but perhaps we should stop and marvel at this ingenious part of Australia's natural heritage, reflect on both the human successes and the failures to care for it, and recognise what we must do now to look after what we don't want to lose. So now to the debate. Our topic for the speakers is celebrating innovation. Success versus failure. Should we celebrate failure or success of innovation in our regions? And which do we learn more from? On the for, we should celebrate success more than failure to highlight the benefits of innovation. And on the against, we should celebrate failure more than success to highlight the lessons learned. So you will hear from the for team arguing success with Rachel Aberton, Ivan Rowland, and Grant Leslie. You will hear from the against team arguing failure with Steve Adamthwaite, Murray Thompson, and Carmel Crowe. So I would like to invite the first speaker to the stage, Rachel Aberton, Planning Engineer from the Mid-Coast Council. So Rachel is the Water and Sewer Planning Engineer at Mid-Coast Council. Rachel started her career in consulting as an environmental and geotechnical engineer, working on groundwater and remediation projects. Rachel started in the planning engineer role 2.5 years ago. Rachel's responsibilities include working on future strategies for providing water and wastewater to the community, and as a project manager in the feasibility and concept phases for water and wastewater projects. Rachel has gained valuable experience in providing and upgrading essential services to the Mid-Coast area, and would like to welcome Rachel to the stage. Oh, yes. Would you like to be here?
Hi everybody. Celebrating success and innovation. What is innovation? Innovation is the introduction of new methods, ideas, or ways of doing something. It's closely related to ingenuity, which is about being clever, original, or inventive. There are many different categories or areas that innovation can be achieved. These can be a technical innovation, innovation in safety, innovation with a particular product or item. It can be commercial, such as entrepreneurship, or innovation in a business model. At Mid-Coast Council, where I work, our organisational vision is to be better every day. When I reflect on this vision, for me, it's about looking for opportunities to change, improve, or modify the way we do something that adds value. My organisational vision, which is a regional New South Wales council, is aligned with innovation. And for me, it exemplifies the integration of celebrating success and identifying new or improved ways of doing something in my role in the water industry. Innovation is outcomes focused, and these opportunities can be hugely beneficial for the communities that we work in. In regional New South Wales, we have tight resources of finances and staff, and being innovative with our approaches and our time to better manage our challenges. The outcomes of this can be great, and there are many examples of innovation success. One example is a sewage treatment plant upgrade that I was involved in. This STP is located in an area that is away from the major part of our LGA, with a small number of operators that manage several treatment plants in the area. We proved it was feasible to upgrade this STP from intermittent to continuous technology. The continuous technology requires less operator time, a smoother effluent quality, and it is a technology that our operators are familiar with. But we had another challenge, which was the tight effluent quality. We couldn't wait until the outcome of the licence variation to push on with the design. If the licence wasn't changed, the MLE process wouldn't give us the effluent quality we needed towards the end of the planning horizon. On the flip side, the 4-stage Barden flow technology isn't common in regional New South Wales. This challenge resulted in us identifying the opportunity to design an MLE process with provision in the future for augmentation to run it as a 4-stage Barden flow process with minimal changes to the bioreactor to achieve a higher level of nitrogen removal. What we found was having this operational flexibility between the MLE and 4-stage process wasn't only achievable, it actually wasn't anywhere near as hard as what we initially thought. It came down to having mixers or blowers in the swing zone and the operation of 2 valves to change the flow path. I'm sure a lot of people here are familiar with Gillian Kilby. She's a champion of innovation and another example of the true value of innovation in regional areas. In 2018, Gillian purchased the historic post office in Dubbo's Main Street to create the Exchange. She's since opened another co-working space in Narrabri. These spaces have become hubs for professionals in regional New South Wales to work and gather, fostering regional innovation and community, bringing together a diverse network of people who will have the space to connect, the room to grow, the opportunity to learn, and the support they need to succeed. Gillian identified a gap in the support and opportunity in regional New South Wales and drove the vision that she had to create a space where professionals from all different industries and backgrounds, including our industry, have support and connections to collaborate, work together, celebrate success, and innovate. Gillian's vision is a great example of driving the opportunities for celebrating success and innovation in regional areas. Thank you.
Well done, Rachel. That was terrific. Thanks for kicking us off and getting the ball rolling. Some great examples of innovation in your workplace and the region. So well done. But the game is not won yet. Next up, we have Steve. So Steve is the first speaker from the Against team who is arguing that we should celebrate failures more than success. Steve is ARUPS, is that how I said it? ARUPS, New South Wales ACT water business leader, playing a key role in driving water strategies centred on sustainable practices and infrastructure-orientated solutions for community and industry. Steve is passionate about Australia's infrastructure sector and shifting how it achieves resilience, security long-term, and is committed to driving change through innovation, leading projects and growing skills which will underpin a sustainable future for the sector and the communities that rely upon it. Steve also influences the sector through leadership positions as Vice President New South Wales of Australian Water Association and Deputy Chair of Water Aid New South Wales. Welcome to the floor, Steve.
Thank you. And thank you, Rachel, for kicking us off. So I feel qualified to stand in front of everyone today and debate on this point, and for this side, because I have failed many times. I failed in my career, in my personal life, and practically every day. I failed yesterday when I failed to check that the pseudo-pact also had pants. You know what I learned from that? Backups, redundancy, the ability to shift and be agile. I've also failed to locate those pants since. So we agree with some of the points on the definition that Rachel made, but we're going to just define some of our own. So for us, failure. the inability to meet an expectation. The fact of not doing something that you must do or expected to do. The fact of something not working or stopping working as well as it should. To celebrate, to recognise an important occasion, to mark an event. Celebration is not necessarily a joyous occasion. We celebrate things to mark that occasion and to remember it. We celebrate Anzac Day, and it's not necessarily a joyous celebration, but it's something that's important to us, and we mark that occasion. And innovation. This is where we agree. We looked at the same page on Google. Innovation is the introduction of something new, an idea or a method, a step change in the way that we approach, respond, and deal with business as usual and challenges. Innovation is separate and distinct from continuous improvement. We're going to show you that celebrating both success and failure is important, but we learn more from celebrating failure. So we'll argue that without celebrating failure and be willing to fail and learn from that failure, we can only achieve continuous improvement. Whilst that is important and forms a core part of transition, is separate and distinct from innovation and focuses on the evolutionary aspects versus the revolutionary nature of innovation. It is learning from our failures that allows us to innovate and adapt. And without celebrating both success and failure, but more so failure, we'll be better equipped to innovate in the regions. Rachel raised a really good point about Gillian Kilby. As we all know, she's a lovely person. She set up the exchange in Dubbo, and one of the things is that she failed to recognise the severity of dealing with heritage buildings. And she didn't let that failure stop her, and she continued on. But that was a major hurdle, and she learnt from that failure by choosing a cordial factory that had a different heritage rating in Narrabri. So, let me tell you a story about someone who embraced failure and was able to innovate and change an industry. Sarah Blakely, probably a name some of you might remember at the back of your brain, but a product and a business that almost everyone will be familiar with. Growing up, Sarah used to be asked at the table every day by her father what she had failed at that day. She recounts as an adult that she remembers him being disappointed when she hadn't failed at something that day, a feeling of failure over not failing. She's been quoted that she didn't realise it at the time, but her father was redefining failure and encouraging her to fail. She sees failure as not trying rather than the outcome. Not trying something new, not stepping outside of your comfort zone, and not forging your own path, not innovating. Sarah credits this mindset shift and the subsequent way she approached problems as a driving force behind her business, both starting and becoming a success. Sarah is the founder and CEO of Spanx. Most of you might be familiar with their products in some way or form. She was named in 2012 the youngest female self-made billionaire in the world. She says she failed at almost every step of the process, from finding a manufacturer to finding a stockist, and that allowed her to learn, adapt, and ultimately become incredibly prosperous. The speakers who follow me will further delve into some of these ideas and provide some examples specific to the water industry and the regions, and why we will learn more from celebrating in failure, why embracing failure allows us to be adaptable and innovate better, and why celebrating both success and failure is important, but that we learn more from celebrating failure, which ultimately leads us to better outcomes for us as individuals, for the communities that we serve, and the industry that we work in.
Thank you, Steve. I wonder if Gillian Kilby realises she's become the arguing point of this debate. Some convincing points there. Thank you very much, team. So next up from the floor, we have Cutthroat Ivan. He was actually introduced to me as the Gentle Giant, and we went on to talk about wildflowers. But for the debate, Cutthroat Ivan. He is General Manager of Abergeldy Complex Infrastructure. Ivan is a mechanical engineer with over 35 years' experience in the water industry. Ivan has been involved in New South Wales regional water projects for the last 25 years through Supply, a water specialist company, and the large multi-sector contractor Abergeldy. Previously, Ivan has been an active member of the AWA's New South Wales Committee for 10 years, and during this time held the role as Vice President. Ivan has also worked on the Biosolids Working Group and as a young water professionals mentor. Most recently, Cutthroat Ivan has also taken up the role as New South Wales Regional Champion. Welcome to the floor.
Thanks, Annika. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Steve, for your thoughts, for what they're worth. So celebrating innovation success. I mean, I want to focus on why it's important and a few examples. I mean, indeed, why are we debating this at all? Obviously these guys drew the short straw in this debate. I just look at Annika's keynote address this morning and I think, well, I understand failure to innovate, but innovation in itself can't be a failure. I can't see the argument. I mean, in Rachel's talk about new ideas or new ways of doing something, how can that by definition be wrong? I think, okay, who of us as individuals, members of organisations or associations are involved in celebrating innovation success? I think we all are. Look at associations like AWA, IPWA, IEOS, Indigenous Business Awards, Champions of the Bush Awards. Are we all wrong? Are we all celebrating the wrong thing? I mean, seriously. Professionals or practitioners in the water sector, what else are we going to celebrate? I mean, work anniversaries? I mean, honestly, innovation, it's a cause for all of us to celebrate. At Abergeldy, we deliver the complex infrastructure needed to build better communities. Part of the Abergeldy Way, we celebrate our successes. Both are pivotal on innovation. True success can only come from innovation. Through innovation's success, we're encouraging delivery and success despite the challenges, despite the changes, despite the disruptions. It's a way of recognising the brave or courageous innovation. It's a way of not only encouraging but retaining and attracting people to our organisations or our cause. Innovation, we attract political interest and funding. It's part of sharing ideas as one of the key pillars of the AWA. Brings us closer together like we are here today. We can't innovate alone, we can't celebrate alone. Examples like we've talked about our Indigenous communities, like the beer pie, like part of the driest continent on earth over 60,000 years. Surely we have to celebrate and acknowledge that. the contractors, associations, utilities like our principal sponsor like Water New South Wales with the ARRP program, cost reimbursable TOC funded projects, direct allocations, ECIs on every project. Council examples, Shoalhaven, like Kangaroo Valley MBR, which surely Carmel celebrated and had a drink or two. I mean, our host, Port Macquarie Hastings Council, mentioned the Reclaimed Water Scheme in 2007. Surely, Murray, you can't not acknowledge that. Even, last but not least, consultants like Arif with the Venturi Innovation Portal and the Lama Lama Indigenous Community Scheme. Surely, Steve, you can't turn your back on that. I mean, innovation cannot fail. We can't spend new money on old ideas faced with new challenges, with new disruptions and changes. I mean, I'm happy to celebrate failure of Queensland in the state of origin, but Toowoomba was and potable reuse is a great innovation. It was a political failure, not an innovation failure. When we in New South Wales turn that around into a successful outcome, I'm sure we'll all celebrate, even the members of the opposition. Thank you.
Thanks, Ivan. That was great, and taking some good jabs at the opposition. My goodness. I saw Murray rolling up his sleeves earlier, getting ready. Before starting, I did ask, are they ready to win? And Murray said, you know, it's not all about winning, but now I think it's all about winning. Am I right? So Murray Thompson is the next speaker that I'm going to be inviting up, who is the director of NTWS. Murray is a civil and electrical engineer who was previously employed by the Port Macquarie Hastings Council for over 30 years in a variety of roles associated with investigation, design, operation and construction of water supply and sewage schemes. He now operates a small engineering consultancy company providing water service advice and expertise to local government councils, state government agencies and other consultants. He is also employed by New South Wales TAFE as a part-time teacher delivering water industry operations certificate 2, 3 and 4 and other specialty courses throughout Australia. Please welcome Murray to the floor.
Thank you, Annika, and thank you, Rachel and Ivan, for some very, very entertaining comments, which we're going to disprove. I'm the second speaker for the team, which is here to convince you that we learn far more from celebrating our failures. It's also those lessons learned through these failures that we remember the best. You know, the things that I've done wrong, I remember more often, and I often reflect on them more than the many successes that I've had, which Ivan has highlighted already. The British author Vivian Green is quoted as saying, life is not about waiting for the storms to pass, it's about learning how to dance in the rain. So dealing with failure is one of the life skills that we all need to develop and maintain throughout our careers. And we're all going to fail at times, and we need to realise that that's okay. Because it's from these failures that we learn lessons that then lead us on to success. And that's what we're talking about today. What do we celebrate more, the failures or the successes? Experiencing failures, I think, will also provide us with the confidence and courage to try again. And a really good example of this is Thomas Edison, who said himself that he'd failed 9,000 times to invent the light bulb. But he kept trying, and he eventually developed the light bulb. Now, innovation most often requires some level of risk. We're trying things that we haven't tried before. So it stands to reason that if we have a fear of failing, of taking risks, then we're going to be inhibited in approaching any innovations that we're going to even try to attempt. So, therefore, we need to celebrate failures more than successes to ensure people will have the confidence to try and also possibly fail. Because I would suggest to you, without failure, there is no innovation possible. Ivan gave us some terrific examples of celebrating successes, and as he mentioned, I've been involved in some terrific projects. But I think Ivan would agree that there are certain things that we need to celebrate more, and they are our failures. In his organisation, I'm sure they would be celebrating things associated with near misses in their safety culture, because we want people to step forward when something goes wrong before it becomes a catastrophe or takes someone's life. So let's look at some local examples of celebrating failure. And going back to Rachel's organisation, Mid Coast Water, in March 2015 at Gloucester, they were involved in a massive overdosing of chlorine into the town's water supply system. What did Mid Coast Council do? Did they hide it underneath the carpet? Did they try and hide it? No. They brought an independent consultant in to analyse it, do a root causes analysis of the incident, and then they celebrated it. They went everywhere and told everybody about what had happened, what had gone wrong, the lessons they had learnt about it. So this whole catastrophe that had occurred to them, they went out and told the entire water industry what had happened and the lessons that they'd learnt from that, and made big changes within their organisation. Okay, let's come here to Port Macquarie and into my award-winning recycled water scheme. In 2019, there were two major events that were associated with this recycled water scheme. In August, we had the lowest rainfall on record here in 120 years, and we had an underground peat fire on the outskirts of Port Macquarie. There was smoke everywhere. It almost closed down the base hospital. It was affecting the health of people in the region. It was closing roads on a daily basis. So what did we do? We took our recycled system, we laid 2.5 kilometres of lay-flat pipe, and we flooded that underground fire. Probably a world first for recycled water. Now, the second incident, which is actually a failure, with the breach of water quality management protocols. The Port Macquarie Running Festival was held in Port Macquarie, and Council had to alert thousands of runners and visitors of an instance where a large number of these people had consumed water from the Council's recycled water supply system, which is obviously not approved for drinking. Drinking and bottle filling stations used at this event had been connected to the recycled water system, so people were drinking the recycled water. And bearing in mind that this recycled water comes from a wastewater treatment plant. So the Port Macquarie News said, "Joggers fear the fun runs." So, which of these events did Council actually go out and celebrate with the rest of the water industry? Anybody got a clue? It was the running festival. And they produced a lot of papers, went to a lot of conferences, and spoke about the lessons they'd learnt from that failure. Another good example. And as I mentioned before, in that response to Ivan, the celebration of failure is demonstrated in our approach to safety culture. So failures that, like near misses, are celebrated to acknowledge a level of failure before it becomes an issue. So it's a really important thing. We learn more from celebrating failure. Embracing failure allows us to adapt and innovate better. And as I said, we learn and remember more from these failures. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Murray, teaching us to dance in the rain and to celebrate our failures. Thank you very much for those points. So now we have the final speaker for the affirmative, Grant Leslie, Director, Balmoral Group. So Grant is a fellow of the Institute of Managers and Leaders and has over 30 years' experience in the Australian water industry. A member of the Select Society of Sludge Shovelers, New South Wales Water Professional of the Year 2020. He has also had past roles including New South Wales Branch President, GM of WSAA, and National Policy and Programs Manager of AWA. Over the past 9 years, he has been the Director of Balmoral Group Australia and has been involved in the economics of projects such as Safe and Secure Water Program, Wyangala Dam Upgrade, and more recently, New South Wales Regional Water Industry Workforce Development. Can we please welcome Grant to the stage?
Firstly, I'd like to thank all the speakers up here today. We've had a good time. trashing each other during the day today. But I don't want to waste too much time wondering about that. Clearly, the team opposite continue to fail. How many times have you heard the bell ring today? Twice on the 2 speakers that we've had here. And they seem to argue that we should aim for failure. They must be feeling a little depressed over there. This breeds a non-innovative culture. If you aim to fail, guess what? You will. And eventually, if you continue your journey on continuing to fail until you get success, you celebrate. You celebrate success. You don't celebrate when you fail. As an example, Murray mentioned the Mid Coast Council overdose of chlorine. Do you think when that happened, they celebrated? No, they celebrated when they fixed the problem, got the innovation, and the innovation was successful, and they celebrated. What a great idea. This is an exciting time to be in the water industry. New innovative tools are being developed. DPE Water, we've heard today, are developing new programs and investments to innovate and celebrate success. These successful solutions, example that Jim Bentley mentioned this morning was the NRAD drone and surveillance drones and autonomous boats. Beautiful innovation, worth success, saves a lot of time and money. This is not a conference that celebrates failure. This is a conference that celebrates innovation and success, and we should be embracing the future. Celebrating success is a compelling argument, and I'm sure you will agree with that and vote for us at the appropriate time. The celebration of innovation can't be innovative alone, and so collaboration and celebration of innovation fosters success. Our first speaker, Rachel, made some great examples of her personal success and why that was important. Our second speaker, Ivan, absolutely nailed what success looked like and why that was important. And so I would like to come up with something today which I thought might be interesting. And I know I'm probably giving Carmel some fodder for me here, but I thought I'd say it anyway. I started my career at 16 when I joined the Royal Australian Air Force. And the motto of the Royal Australian Air Force is per ardua ad astra, which means from adversity to the stars. And I thought, could we apply that to success in the water industry? And so I leave you with this. Per ardua ad aqua securita. From adversity to water security. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Some great arguments there, and I love that piece from stars? From adversity to, yes, water security. That was great. So we finally have the final speaker of today from the negative team, the against team. We have Carmel Crowe, consultant and immediate past president of AWA. So Carmel is an experienced water infrastructure professional with extensive leadership and management skills. She has successfully combined both executive and non-executive roles, including 9 years on the board of AWA and national president from 2019 to 2021. Carmel has over 40 years of industry experience and has made a significant contribution to the water sector and to the advancement of women. She was the first female to graduate from the New South Wales Institute of Technology, now UTS, in civil engineering. She also holds a Masters of Engineering and a Masters of Business Administration. She has many years' experience in local government in several senior roles, has worked in the private sector, and has also worked as an infrastructure advisor for the Australian Aid Program. In 2019, Carmel was awarded OAM for her contribution to civil engineering. Her other awards also include a Special Achievement Award by the Minister for Local and Government for her contribution to the water sector. Carmel, we welcome you to the stage.
Grant, you really didn't give me that much to have a go at you, but I'll try my best. I have the greatest respect for my colleagues on the right here, and so it really pains me very deeply to have to shatter their rose-coloured glasses through which they've been looking at success as some way of actually improving our attitude to innovation. Grant, you talked about, you brought in the issue of the stars, and when I was sort of thinking about this initially, the first failure that came to my mind was actually Apollo 13. Everyone remembers Apollo 13? That great Tom Hanks movie, the whole premise, the whole reason Apollo 13 is stuck in all our minds, the reason a movie was made about it was because of failure. So the amount of things that we learnt from Apollo 13 was just absolutely fascinating. It was amazing to me. You may remember at the start of that movie where everyone was bored by the fact that Apollo 11 had been there, Apollo 12. So Apollo 13, no one was interested in Apollo 13 because everyone just expected success and everyone just expected it to be one more success. It wasn't until everything went wrong that we actually learnt something, and at the end of the day, what did we do? We celebrated and continued to celebrate the fact that there was huge failures. And you talking about culture. I mean, that part of the issue with both that instance as well as other space exploration issues, for example, is, for the example, the Challenger issue, where if we continually think about success, then we come to a culture of complacency. So we actually need those failures to give us a good kick up the proverbial. Ivan, I've got to have a go at you about why are we debating this at all? Well, frankly, this debate isn't really about what we do now. It's not even about how cutthroat you are, but it's about what we need to do more effectively to learn from the things we do so we can drive innovation in the regional areas. And the fact we're actually even having this debate is because the YWP's recognised that this is a discussion we need to have, and maybe the YWPs need to hear more from us about all the failures that we've had, which I come to Kangaroo Valley that you brought up. Yes, I absolutely celebrated that. Had quite a few dozen drinks. I'm sure some of my ex-staff in the audience will attest to that. But really, in the back of my mind, what I was celebrating was the fact all the failures that had happened along the way, like the guy pulling out on Christmas Eve on the site that we were actually going to build the treatment plant on. So years and years of failure to get to an end point. But what we did is we learnt from the failures and actually celebrated the failures. One other point reinforcing what my team has said. Murray brought up the mid-coast water issue. Now, poor Brendan, where's Brendan? Brendan and all of us around here, many of us have done many presentations to many conferences. Do you know, I can't remember any of Brendan's except that one. Because it was just honest, raw, and it was just, everyone sat there thinking, oh God, but the grace of God go I. Yeah, so that was just this huge learning experience and a huge way to celebrate the fact that we can actually be honest about our failures and have huge learnings from them. I think I'm going to run out of time, far be it for me to get the last bell, but I think just in closing, if I had a glass of champagne right now, and there's quite a possibility that I might have one in my hand in the not too distant future, I hope we're not holding people back from drinks, but I would raise my glass to celebrate both success and failure. But I absolutely know, as my team has quite clearly articulated, that if I woke up the next morning with a bit of a hangover, then the discussions that I would remember the failures, not the pat on the backs that we gave each other over a few glasses, but the real hard conversations about the failures that we had along the way. That's what we'd be celebrating, round the bar. Or, so I think, just to sum up what my team has said, is that we learn more and we remember more from celebrating failure, which ultimately leads to better outcomes for us as individuals, us as professionals, for the communities we serve, and for this great industry that we work in. And so I'd just like to close on a quote, which most of you know I love quotes. Henry Ford: "Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently." Thank you.
A wonderful Carmel raising her glass to failure. Can I please get a big round of applause to all 6 speakers? That has really been wonderful. Thank you, everyone on stage. So you have made some really compelling arguments there. Many great points, many things to think about. It appears that innovation, regardless, is a great concept and something we should think about in the water sector, whether it is success or failure. So now we are going to open up to Q&A from the floor so you can get involved. So we want you to ask questions of the speakers up here, and I'm going to invite Trevor up to the stage to help manage the questions coming in, and then we're going to be placing votes for the winning argument. So please jump on and ask a question to our speakers.
We've only got 2 questions and one of them's actually a comment. So I'll read the comment first. No one aims to fail. However, if we do, we share, learn, come up with solutions and innovate. We then celebrate. Does anyone want to add something to that comment? Rubbish. Next question. It's often said that the person who never failed never did anything. Sorry. It's often said the person who never failed never did anything. What is the greatest innovative success you have ever experienced following a failure? Throw that to your way if you'd like. If you want to try and answer that one. What is the greatest innovative success you have ever experienced following a failure? Sorry, everyone tells me English is my second language, so.
Well, I guess if we think about my team opposite, who mentioned Thomas Edison invented the light globe, failed 9,000 times, but eventually got to celebrate success.
Rebuttal?
Could I just sort of talk about, I took that question as sort of almost to say, think about an experience in your career where you failed miserably and how have you come out of that? And for me, from one of my many failures in my career was, and I presented on this many years ago, I had the joy of being the operations manager when the water treatment plant burnt down up on North Stradbroke Island. And again, the lessons learnt from that, it was too many to count. But we talked about culture and complacency. The reason that initially that failure happened was because of culture of complacency, where the operator turned the air conditioner on before he left the island every afternoon because he wanted the operating room to be warm when he got there the next morning. And that had gone on forever. I didn't even know about it. And the next morning I get a call and the plant's burnt down because of a failure in the air conditioner. But at the end of the day, of course, we learned from that and we still started to produce water. But in my mind, they're the things I remember. And so it's not that I don't remember the sort of the real great things that happened. I remember those things. They are indelibly imprinted on my mind forever, and I will learn from those forever.
Yep, sweet. I guess I'll throw this to each team again. Who judges success or failure, the doers or the spectators? Ooh, I heard an ooh there too. Did you?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Who judges the success or failure, the doers or the spectators? So I guess who says it's a success or a failure? The person who does it, or the person who watches it?
Yeah, I think it's the, in this case, the peers in the water community. It's not the doers that celebrate the success. Like true celebration is when it's celebrated by others. I mean, in thinking about failures, that doesn't happen. It's more commiseration than celebration. But yeah, it's by the people that it's recognition by others.
Sweet. Any opinion on that?
Well, can I talk about politicians? Is there any politicians in the room? Let's hope not. Who celebrates success? Who cuts ribbons? Politicians cut ribbons. When everything goes well, politicians celebrate success. They're the ones that get the kudos when things go right, and it's the poor person down on the ground that's actually had to, before they turned the sod, they had to go and cover up all this other stuff that they'd stuffed up. So it's the doers are the ones that actually most appreciate the failures. It's the others, the non-doers, that may celebrate the successes without really earning it.
Sweet, thank you. I think this one's aimed at Grant. Sorry, that sounded ominous. From adversity to water security, how does adversity lead us to water security?
Well, drought for a start, floods, rat plagues, bushfires, all are places of adversity. And by taking adversity and creating innovation, you can celebrate success.
Sweet, thanks. Just a reminder to everyone too to jump on and vote for or against. Oops. Currently got 14 votes. And my maths isn't that good, but I can count more than 14 people in the room. Hang on. I heard that. Okay, again, for both, if we truly think we should celebrate failure, then why wouldn't we deliberately set up projects to fail? Don't we aim for success? Sorry, I'll actually throw that to the against.
Yeah, jump in. So one of the things that we do as the water industry is serve our community. We don't want to fail our community, and therefore we shouldn't be setting ourselves up for failure. We're stewards of health and well-being through water quality and things like that. What we're saying is that you should celebrate the failure because we learn more from it rather than covering it up and only celebrating the success. So when you fail at a project, we're not aiming for that failure. It's a consequence of an outcome that we are trying to achieve, which is a better standard of service for our communities and those sorts of things. And we celebrate that failure if we aren't able to achieve that, so we can learn the lessons and then provide that service. We don't aim for that as a first stop.
I've got another comment here. We don't celebrate failure, we learn and innovate from failure. Then we celebrate the success that brings. Did anyone want to rebut or agree with that?
100%, that's part of our argument.
We need to reinforce that.
I think you need to look at a definition of celebration. It's not about balloons and party hats. It's about making publicly known. So when we talk about celebrating, we talk about sharing knowledge, making things publicly known. And as Steve said, it's really important in our industry. We're a small industry. We do a very important service to our communities. So where we do fail, we need to share that information with everybody as widely as possible so that those failures aren't repeated and people learn those lessons and remember them going forward.
And not be ashamed.
Sweet. I believe this is to the against. What price failure? Boil water, environmental problem, sickness, cash that could be somewhere else?
Could you repeat the question?
It's not quite a question. Against what price failure? Boil water, environmental problem, sickness, cash that could be somewhere else. So I guess signs of failure in a project. That's kind of the question I've got.
What are you willing to pay for information? Are you willing to put at risk money? Are you willing to put at risk the environment? Are you willing to put at risk something? If the celebrating party are also celebrating those other...
Absolutely not. No, that's what we're saying, that you actually have to, you don't intentionally fail, but what you have to do is recognise when you do fail, and you need to be honest and accountable for that failure and learn from it, and not be ashamed of it, but you actually learn from it. So you don't intentionally go out to fail, but to the fact that celebration is about recognising an issue and actually articulating it in a way that you can learn from it.
Sweet. I want to throw this open to both teams, this question, because I think it'll be funny.
What?
How much failure is too much? What is our risk appetite for innovation if failure is an inevitable part of that journey? What would you like to respond to that? You can just say all failure is unacceptable, but...
I guess it depends on the failure. Entrepreneurs fail quite often before they're successful. And we talked about Gillian Kilby and how she went through a really tough time trying to buy that Telstra building in Dubbo. And eventually, I suspect, but I don't know, but I suspect that she was very challenged by both financially and emotionally in getting that thing over the line. But at the end of the day, she had the risk appetite for it. And I guess there's a point at which if you continue to fail, you just don't proceed, just don't go forward anymore. And then you just don't celebrate.
I agree with the sentiment, but maybe not the outcome. So it is, again, horses for courses. We have different risk appetites for different things. Same as all of your organisations have a risk appetite for environmental failures or project overspends or water quality. So it depends on the individual thing. So if we're looking at a very specific ability to innovate, if you look at the risk appetite for an online platform to capture customer voices, that's a different level of appetite for failure than our water quality delivered to homes. So I think the answer is more nuanced than that. And I think that as part of that, we need to acknowledge that at each stage of a project, business, and all of that sort of stuff, we do have those failures, and that ultimately that is not the thing that often stops us from proceeding forward to that better outcome. It's part of the journey to get there, which changes our appetite.
Sweet. Another one for both teams. Should our conference be talking about shiny new projects or share lessons about stuff that breaks and the lessons learned?
Yeah, I think focusing on lessons learned, I mean, that's a valid point, but that's the opposition's only point. I mean, celebrating innovation success, it brings about a culture. It encourages people to have a go, to fail along the way. And it's recognition for people who are brave enough to have a go. Yeah, there's lessons learned from failure, but there's much more. We want to encourage people to take on innovation, to try something new. When we think about what's at stake, whether it's day zero in water or, think of all the things put at risk for the cure for COVID or vaccinations for COVID. I mean, it's celebrating the success. We're aware of all the issues getting there to that success. But it's a culture. The celebration is a lot more than just learning.
No worries.
Short answer is both, but so our argument is that we should be celebrating both, but we should be making sure that we do celebrate both so that we can learn from those failures. So we should be celebrating our shiny new projects and things that we've knocked out of the park, but we should also be talking about those things that have gone wrong and how we've corrected and what we've learned from that. And as Carmel so eloquently put, those are the things that we remember. Thanks, Brendan.
I'm going to ask this question because I like it, and for both teams again. Why is failure not celebrated on LinkedIn? Nothing ever goes wrong in the LinkedIn world.
Why is what?
Why is it celebrated on LinkedIn?
This is actually a very interesting discussion because I was having that with my wife on the way coming up here. My wife's a psychologist and she gets failure on her LinkedIn every single day. Just depends on, the algorithm that works for you.
Oh, how about I give you the old person's view and Steve, you can give the young person's view. My old person's view is that the social media just kind of perpetuates good news stories, and people will falsely portray themselves as never failing or never, because they want to put forward their best profile. So therefore, why would you do that? The fact that things like LinkedIn are being used to recruit people, etc., etc. Why would you put negative comment on there? Why would you put? And when someone actually does put a raw, it's actually when someone puts a raw comment, a raw personal or real comment, that you get the, whoa, you've got 1,500 comments or whatever. So yeah, it's anything to add?
Okay, I'll ask this for both teams, although it is more of a failure question. What do you think is key for organisations to foster a supporting failure culture, in brackets, because admitting failure can be scary and often not celebrated?
That's a good question.
Can I have a go at that?
Yeah.
I think that's extremely important. One of the issues I was going to raise was the fact that so often we don't find out about things that have gone wrong unless people have the courage to bring that knowledge forward. And I celebrate whistleblowers because they are the people who have been able to find the courage to come forward, to highlight some light in a dark corner and hopefully right a wrong. So I think we most definitely need people with more courage. And one of the ways that you can achieve that courage or confidence is by living failure experiences and realising it's not the end of the world. You'll get up and you'll try again. So I think from an organisational, cultural point of view, we want people to have the confidence that they can bring these things forward, that the organisation will support them. And unfortunately, we see too many examples, even recently, where very large organisations take the opposite tack and try and discredit those whistleblowers rather than dealing with the cultural problems that they face. So I think we've all got a responsibility, personally and organisationally, to encourage people to bring problems forward.
Sweet.
I don't want to sit up here and pretend that every project I've done has been perfect and we haven't failed. We have, I guess, within our organisation, but from an organisational perspective, we have, after every project we complete, we have a lessons learnt meeting where we actually talk pretty honestly about how those projects went and what we can learn from them, so we can have some smoother projects in the future. And so I think in the last 9 years we've had maybe 2 or 3 that were perfect, where there was no real issues, but it's about continuous improvement for our organisation, and we celebrate that continuous improvement.
Sweet. Marketing is common for the industry. It goes back to LinkedIn. Can you please identify where one of you have celebrated failure on LinkedIn or in contrary to your clients? Remember, nothing ever goes wrong in LinkedIn world.
I think that's exactly our point. Why there's no cause for celebration of failure, and by definition, innovation can't be a failure. So.
I can probably point to a few examples on my own LinkedIn, but specifically when I left my last employer, as part of what I wrote was around how I was wrong about the water industry. So when I was younger, I thought it was incredibly boring. I'm a chemical engineer. I was like, what do you do? And we spent a significant portion of our study time looking at things that weren't water related. So I made an assumption. And I celebrated that failure when I moved to the water industry through a change in career, that I was wrong about that. I had my assumptions, and through experiences, I had changed my view about that and celebrated that I was wrong about that. And now I can hang out with all you lovely people.
I'm going to ask this question for the negative, and we should have probably confiscated your phones. Why does AWA present an annual award for infrastructure project innovation as opposed to infrastructure project failure? Should this change?
Say that again.
Why isn't there an innovation failure rate?
Why does the AWA present an annual award for infrastructure project innovation as opposed to infrastructure project failure?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm glad you asked. And I can bring in the regional side on this as well, because you may or may not know that there used to be just an infrastructure project award wasn't split up into regional and metro. And frankly, no offence to any Sydney Water people here, but frankly, if you get 10 nominations from Sydney Water, it's pretty obvious that Sydney Water is going to win it. So to encourage more thought and more innovation in regional areas, we split it. As a first go, AWA said, okay, we're going to have a separate award for regional projects, regional innovation projects. But I think this is probably why the YWP actually came up with this thought about the debate, is because we should be evolving and we should be thinking, Sandra, shouldn't we? We should be thinking about how we look at the awards and yeah, it's maybe not call it the Carmel Crow Failure Award or something, but but perhaps the best lesson learnt or something award here. Great idea.
We are going to have to get an award called the Carmel Crow Failure Award. I might have to get some help with Gunther, who asked this question. It's actually both the same. What is important is that we openly learn how we got to whichever outcome, for or against. Someone like to answer that? It's actually both the same. What is important is that we openly learn how we got to whichever outcome, for or against. Might skip that one unless someone wanted to comment on that. Okay, next question for both again. Isn't success a process, not a point in time, so by definition it can't be measured? Is there not only failure and continuous improvement? Success is void.
Success is what?
Void. I guess, yes, isn't success a process, not a point in time? So is success, I guess, the destination or the journey?
I'm not sure if I've understood this question properly, but I think it could be both. From an engineering perspective, we have deliverables. If we meet those, then yes, we have success. It is also a journey. We're continually learning. So I think they both complement each other,
Yeah.
if I've understood that right.
How would you measure success or failure? I guess is also what this question's getting at, because by definition, success is a point in time or the destination, not quite the journey. So is there a measurement for success or failure?
One key measure of success for me is whether I get paid or not.
I think one of the good example of that is going back to something Murray said was around safety culture. So we measure our success through TRIFR and all of those sorts of things that are associated with that, that are specifically our failures, around near misses and those sorts of things. And then we quantify getting closer to an optimal solution by that value becoming lower and that our outcomes becoming more positive as time goes on. And we can do that with innovation as well. It's probably a little bit more complex, but that's why we're having a debate on these things, is to inspire people to think about the hard questions about how they bring this back to their own organisations.
All right. I think we've run out of time, but I like this question too much, so I'll quickly ask it. Celebrating failure is just PR, isn't it?
PR.
Isn't celebrating failure just PR? Public
Yes.
relations. Yes. I guess a shrug of the shoulder counts.
Celebrating failure is just PR.
Celebrating success is just PR.
No, celebrating. Well, the question was celebrating failure, but you're more than welcome to reword it.
Oh, sorry, I heard. What I heard was celebrating success is just PR. And I absolutely agree with that statement. Whoever made it? Oh, it was me, was it?
You failed to hear the question.
I think I might leave it there. Thank you. I'll throw it back to Annika.
Thank you very much. Well, I hope everyone has voted. Did you want to announce? I'll pass it over to Trevor to announce the winners.
So we finally got 79 votes, and by an overwhelming majority, for was 21%, against was 79%. So, yes. Thanks.
From Gillian Kilby, there's a comment in Slido.
Sorry, Jill's comment. Sorry. Jill's comment is, should celebrate it or fund it? Two very different things. She's not here listening, is she?
Thank you very much. And can we get a round of applause for Trevor, who's part of the Young Water Professionals? That was wonderful. Thank you everyone on the floor for your engagements. Thank you everyone on stage for your compelling arguments. In Australian water, we have had good days and bad days, positive experiences and negative experiences, many failures we can learn from and that we should learn from. A larger failure would be not to learn from them, I think, and is a good point that has been made. But we also have many examples of success that we should highlight and hold up. So another round of applause, please. So thank you, Rachel, Ivan and Grant. Thank you, Steve, Murray and Carmel. So this brings us to the end of the debate. The rest of the delegates will join us shortly from the breakout rooms, and I will hand over to Nanda to close the day. So thanks again, everyone.